Up until now, we have been talking about how genetics that are passed down from parent to offspring help them be more successful at having future generations or future babies. So, if they are adapted to their environment, if they have genes that have them develop things that help them live in that environment, that means that they are genetically fit for that environment. And they'll be the ones that are more likely to survive and have babies, and they'll have babies, and so on. So the population or the species will survive. So today we're going to be talking about behaviors. These are things that animals do or things that they act out that help them be more successful in having babies and surviving to and their babies surviving to adulthood. So what is a reproductive behavior? So reproductive behavior in animals includes any event or action that is involved in perpetuating a species so that an animal reproduces at least one replacement of itself, meaning having at least one baby. There are numbers of behaviors that help announce and guarantee successful reproduction, and we're going to talk about a few of those today. So you'll be taking notes as we go on your note sheet, so make sure you have that out. So the first one is environmental. So some animals can change to match their environment. So the Arctic fox, for instance, changes its coat color with the seasons to avoid predators. So in the summer, that's the fox on the left. You see it's in the summer. Its coat helps it camouflage in the den that it lives in. And in the winter, it makes it blend into the background. So those offspring will survive. They're more likely to survive because they're camouflaged better. So some animals have the ability to adapt, like this animal, to changing environments. Length of day or light increases favorability, so sometimes the additional daytime will help certain species survive better. And food and protein sources, those are very important. If there's lots of good food and protein sources in their environment, then that species is most likely going to survive. Hormonal. So male giraffes smell the urine of a female to see if she is fertile. That's an example of a hormonal behavior. So production of estrogen in females and testosterone in males. These are hormones they have in their body that drive them to want to mate. Secretion of pheromones to leave clues to attract male and females to one another. So we'll talk about pheromones more in a minute when we get to olfactory, but pheromones are a hormonal chemical as well. So visual. So a great example of a visual behavior or something visual that an animal does is the drake duck. This drake duck on the left, you'll see it's nice and bright. That's a drake duck in mating season. So during mating season, they want to be noticed. So they have this bright, beautiful plumage. And after mating season is over, they don't want to be noticed anymore. They want to hide from predators. So during winter, they will molt. They will lose their feathers and grow new ones in that are a darker color that help them hide. Also, drake ducks can be very aggressive. So the males can be very aggressive when they're mating, and they assert their territory to reduce competition, meaning once they find a female in a place for their nest, they will fight off other males. Olfactory. Olfactory is smell. So an example of an olfactory behavior would be like the female gypsy moth. It stops producing pheromones after they've mated. Now, we briefly talked about pheromones under hormones, but pheromones are a smell. So every animal produces pheromones, every human produces pheromones, and a lot of times they're very different between individuals. Animals detect pheromones as a way to know that they have a mate nearby. For humans, they've actually taken pheromones and put those in perfumes and colognes. And that's the theory is that's why some colognes and perfumes smell better to you than someone else, because we're attracted to different types of pheromones. Animals will rub scent glands on objects to mark territory. If you've ever had a cat and noticed the cat rub their head on things, they're marking their territory. They have scent glands in their face, and they're rubbing that against things to say, that's mine. Dogs will do that too. Pheromones are released to attract mates, and some animals use urine to mark breeding territory. So just like if you've ever had a dog or a cat pee somewhere in your house, they're trying to mark it as theirs, especially males. So outside, they will pee on things to say, this is where I live. So if you've ever taken a dog for a walk or seen them pee on a pole or on a tuft of grass, they're trying to tell other dogs in that area that they've been there. Courtship. I think courtship by far is probably the most entertaining and interesting one to learn about. In this case, I have an example of mannequin birds. It says mannequin birds put on an elaborate display to persuade females to mate with them. They do quite a little dance. So you'll want to pause this YouTube video with your PowerPoint to watch the video that I've put the link in Canvas for you. So you'll pause this, you'll go to your assignment in Canvas where you found this PowerPoint, and you will watch this video. When you're done, come back to this one and finish taking your notes. Okay, so you should be done watching the video now. So courtship. If you noticed, they did a lot of very intricate little moves to attract the females. So these are called communication signals, and these communication signals are supposed to reduce fear and hostility between potential reproductive partners. They're telling them, hey, I'm safe, I don't want to attack you, I just want to mate with you. Persistence, appeasement, persuasion, and even deception. So there are some animals that will just be completely persistent. They won't leave the female alone until she finally relents. Some of them bring gifts. That's appeasement. So they'll bring little gifts to their mate. There are certain birds that do that. Persuasion. They'll do that with, again, with little gifts or little dances. And sometimes even deception. They'll fool them into thinking that they're a different animal. Males take on a different coloring than females. Take on a different coloring that female interprets as non-fighting. So some males sometimes will have certain colors when they're fighting other males for territory, and other colors for when they want to mate. And so they're kind of showing, or they'll show different plumage to the female. Post-fertilization care. This means after the eggs are fertilized or after the baby is created, not necessarily before it's born. That's parental care, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But when the eggs have been fertilized, it's not always mom that sticks around to care for them, and actually not all animals stick around to care for them at all. For example, sea turtles, they'll bury their eggs and then they leave. They leave the eggs in the sand. They don't care for them. They're kind of on their own. They're like, good luck, when you hatch, go find the ocean. See you later. Seahorses are kind of unique in that the males are the ones that give birth, and they give birth to thousands of babies in hopes that some will survive. So this is the law of large numbers. If I have 1,000 babies and 800 of them die, at least 200 of them will survive. So there are certain animals that have lots and lots of eggs or lots and lots of babies in the hopes that some will survive. Also, some will camouflage or camouflage the nest to protect the eggs. Some of them will do startle displays to scare off predators. So they'll jump at predators, or they'll act sick. Mimicry, they'll mimic other animals. There are certain butterflies that will open up their wings and it makes them look like poisonous snakes or animals, and it'll scare predators off. So these are all things that animals may do to protect their eggs or their babies before they actually hatch. Now, after babies are born or after they hatch, there's parental care. And like I said, some animals provide a lot of parental care and some animals provide very little. Penguins are a great example. They provide care for their young anywhere from 7 weeks to 13 months, depending on the type of penguin. So it could be just, hey, after 7 weeks, can you imagine after 7 weeks old, your parents are like, you're on your own, good luck. So birds sometimes will nest in safe locations. So near wasps or stinging ants. So they'll build their nest close to theirs for natural protection for the babies, because predators won't want to go through the wasps or the stinging ants. Mammals often have fewer offspring that stay with the parents longer. So obviously penguins and, even 7 weeks is longer than some animals. Like I said, the sea turtles bury their eggs and then they leave. So there's no parental care. But humans, for instance, in some cases, we care for our young until, well, for the rest of their lives in some cases, depending on the situation. So mammals typically have just a few babies, but they're very protective of them. Some animals will care for eggs until the offspring are hatched and then only stay with them a short time after. And in other cases, parents give birth or lay the eggs and then they either die or they leave. So there are some cases where animals, as soon as they've given birth, they die. And then the life cycle begins again. For instance, mayflies. Mayflies are like that. As soon as they lay their eggs, they have such a short lifespan that they die. Auditory is another behavior. So auditory is sound. So some animals produce some very unique sounds. And on this slide, for instance, is the Tungara frog. The Tungara frog has a very distinct mating call, and there's a video for that here as well. So if you go to your Canvas assignment, you will see a link for the Tungara frog. I'd like you to pause this video, go watch that one, and when you come back, you will understand what I mean by a very unique mating call. So vocal signals among animals can reveal to the receiver the color, species, sex, and whether or not it is mated. So they can actually tell from what they're hearing whether or not that is the same species as them, whether it's a female or a male, and whether they have mated or still need a mate. So it's pretty cool that they can tell all that just from a mating call. A territorial song of some birds repel other males. So if a male has found a mate and they want to repel other males out of the area, they will sing a specific song, and that lets other birds know, hey, this is mine, stay away. So these are just an introduction to some of the behaviors that animals do, and we have a lot more to look at and to learn about this week. So we'll be talking about animal behaviors. We'll also be talking about plant structures later this week. So today I want you to finish your notes and submit those to Canvas, and have a great day.